what's taking you to Norway?
I guess there's so many layers to my journey, and you obviously know me and know what I've been through in the car crash many years ago that sidelined my whole career. So I don't know if you know my story at all, but I went from 0 to 1,000%, had the career of my dreams, and then was in a brutal car crash that gave me a very, very serious brain injury that took me years to recover from. So I lost everything as quickly as I got it. And that for me was quite a struggle because my ego was holding on to this idea of myself that I'd created that wasn't necessarily happy, but I had built up to that for so long that when I had it, I felt like I needed to hold on to that. I couldn't lose it. And then it was all taken away. And I desperately tried to get that back. I didn't want to tell anyone that I was injured. I thought I'd get through it fast within a few months. And then years went by and I was still struggling and realized that the only way I was going to heal was to actually let go of that version of myself. And there was this whole grieving process where I didn't know who I was. I was a broken, injured person. I had been invincible. I was a dancer. I was like, I could do anything. I learned fast. So this new version of myself was just not me as I knew it. But what I had to learn, it was just as much me. It was a new expression of me. And I went through this whole healing process where I started to take this inward journey, and not by choice. It was by necessity, and I was stuck alone in dark rooms by myself with only myself to dig up. And I don't think I would have gone on this journey had it not been for that. I really don't. And in that sense, I am grateful for that pain and that struggle. And the growth that it has given me is what drives me to keep going. So in this process, I learned a lot about trauma, and I learned to really study people because I was dealing with, an invisible injury, and I had to make sure that I was actually, my emotions and a lot of things that I thought I was expressing myself like the way that I felt, and it was coming out differently. So I went through this weird process where what was coming out of me was different than what I was feeling within. So I had to reconnect that. And I developed this sort of ability to x-ray through people's egos quickly because what I did to myself, I can see in other people now, and I can see what they're holding back. And it was just by accident. I went to Norway. I wanted to start giving back because I realized that my biggest time and the hardest part of my career was at the beginning when nobody would let me through the door and nobody told me how to get there. So I wanted to start giving back to the younger generation, and I went out to this really cool school that some friends of mine started in Norway where they find some of the best new talents and they bring them to Norway, and they just focus on songwriting and production and turning them into like Swiss Army knives of the songwriting world. And they're so talented. And I was brought out as a songwriting mentor. But when I was there, they looked me up and they're like, wow, you can perform. We'd love to have a performance class, which I wasn't prepared for. So they really put me on the spot. And I was like, okay, I didn't think about this, but why don't we just dive right into it? Let's see what happens. So the students would get on stage, and all this healing journey that I went on myself, just the silver lining came out in that moment. I started seeing in their bodies before my eyes. I could see where their trauma was getting stuck in points of stress in their bodies. And for some reason, I just instinctively knew how to unlock it and trick their brains into unlocking this stress in their bodies like a little jigsaw puzzle. So instead of teaching them how to perform, I just unlocked their system. And like magic, it was the most profound experience that I think any of us in the room had been through. It was so apparent, the group mind effect that humans have with one another, because when they finally connected with themselves, the whole audience felt it in an instant, and they would just scream. They didn't even know what was going on. And instantly, without anything visibly changing, the student went from being a performer you didn't want to watch to being somebody you couldn't take your eyes off of, even if they were just standing still. So the school was like, what did you do? And I literally was like, I have no idea. And they're just like, okay, well, you got to do more of that. And so I was like, okay, bring me back. Let me see if I can repeat it. And every time I've been doing it, I've been getting better at it. I've been discovering new things, not only about the physical body, but actually now I'm moving into the aura, the space around us that's actually another part of our body that we actually hold trauma around us as well as within ourselves. So now they're actually bringing me out to spend a few months with the students as opposed to a few days and build out, just kind of develop. It's like my own lab, research lab of the soul. How do I find their souls and bring them out and make them the most authentic version of themselves?
But straight to human trial.
Yeah, literally. It's crazy. The last time I went, students were crying in the audience who hadn't even gotten on stage. Like it really is an emotional experience. And I don't know where it's going to lead, but I realize I can't really unlock them like that and leave them hanging. So I'm going to go for an extended period of time and we're going to see what happens. But ultimately I am just like a compass that points them in the direction of learning how to love themselves and how to project it into the world. So it's pretty exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, those students must be beside themselves, like getting to learn from someone as talented as you. I mean, that must be incredible, especially with all that like personal growth and, that's exciting. That's really cool to be able to give that back.
Yeah, it's weird too, because at the end of every class, I just ask them if they've actually learned anything they didn't know before I came in. And none of them say yes. Like they all knew everything within themselves. They just had to be honest with themselves to get it out into the world. So I can't really say I'm a teacher. I'm just sort of like a locksmith. I'm like just unlocking them in different ways. But
it sounds like it's working.
It is, yeah. I feel like maybe that might be my purpose in this chapter of my life. It's just to really help people get to who they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to find out here shortly.
I know. I might be coming back being like, guys, didn't work.
Thanks for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell.
Thanks for tuning in to Studio 22.